Hey everybody, this is Chris here with Academy of Worship here on YouTube. I want to welcome you back. It's been a long time. It's been over a year since my last video. That last video has gotten an incredible response for the electric guitar, the tools for electric guitar, and I'm hoping to continue that trend as far as the topic we're discovering, as far as the basic tools of whatever instrument we're talking about. The acoustic guitar is our topic for today. I'm hoping to drill down deeper into each instrument in later videos, but for now we're going to cover tools for acoustic guitar in worship. The acoustic guitar in worship is an interesting beast because it's so simple yet can be so complex depending on what your setting is. My hope is that at this point you are a player that may be either just starting to get into acoustic guitar leading worship, or maybe you're someone who's led worship on acoustic guitar for a while, looking for something that's going to freshen things up. Or maybe just see what other people do. So this may be old hat for some of you, this may be new, but like I said, it's going to be the basics. I assume that whoever is watching this video has a basic understanding of chords, because I'm not going to spend time on how to play a G chord or how to play an A chord or a D chord or whatever. I'm going to spend time on how to use those tools on an acoustic guitar. So to start out, let's talk about equipment. So the first thing you need obviously is an acoustic guitar. If you don't have one, there's lots of great priced acoustics out there. For the money you get a lot of bang for your buck. I happen to have a Taylor 310 CE. I know that Taylor has become kind of the go-to for worship leaders on acoustic guitar. I don't know why, because there's a lot of great sounding guitars out there, but these do sound phenomenal. This one does. So first things first, an acoustic guitar. But I recommend that if you are in the market for getting an acoustic guitar, you get one that's an acoustic electric guitar, which means it has a preamp, so bass and treble and volume or something like that, or some variation on that. And obviously it will come with a place to plug in a 1/4-inch jack, much like an electric guitar or other electric instrument. And this will make things a lot easier on your sound person and yourself as well, if you ever want to, say, put an effect on it or run a compressor on it, or do the next thing, which is tune it. There's two ways that I can think of that you're going to want to tune your guitar, and this is the second thing you're going to want in your arsenal, a tuner. You can either tune it with a floor tuner unit, which, for instance, Boss makes a white one. I forget what the model number is, like TU something. A lot of guys use that in worship because you can step on it. So you plug your guitar into it, out of your guitar into the pedal, out of the pedal into your direct box or whatever you're running into. When you step on the pedal to tune, it mutes your guitar signal, which allows you to tune silently, or mostly silently, and then re-engage it by unclicking it. The second way is a piezo or induction tuner, or however you want to call it. I use that. So if you look on the back of my guitar here, see that black thing there? That is a tuner by Planet Waves. I forget the model number. But you turn it on, and it actually uses your wood and a small piezo pickup in the actual tuner to pick up the vibrations in your guitar. So you would turn your guitar down, tune, turn it back up. So a little different, but that's what I use. They're pretty accurate. I've had no issues with this one. The third thing you're going to want in your arsenal is a capo, because acoustic guitar players in modern worship, this is where you live, is a capo. Sorry. So if you don't like capos, you may want to get one and start getting used to it, because it's going to make your life a lot easier, I'll promise that. And two, with some keys, and in some cases changing keys on the fly, this is going to become your best friend, because it's going to be a lot easier to fret chords in weird keys. And I'll get more to that later. So I just use this, I think it's a Dunlop squeeze pressure guy, and you go on there and you can move it around pretty easily. I keep it up on my headstock, even if I'm never playing changing keys or need a capo. I keep it on my headstock when I'm playing because, I don't know, it seems like a safe bet, because sometimes in the middle of rehearsal or something we'll say, you know what, let's change this to the key A, and to make it easier on myself, because I sing and lead worship at the same time, I capo up and just do it in first position chords, which again I'll get to. Okay, so those are the three things: acoustic electric guitar, if you can manage it, a tuner of some sort, and a capo. Getting into the actual nuts and bolts of what we're going to be doing as far as playing goes, I mentioned the first position chords, and that's where you're going to live as an acoustic guitar player. You're going to live between the first, and I'll say at most the 7th frets, but probably between 1 and 5. You're going to be playing mostly first position chords, which means G, C, D, E major, E minor, A major, A minor, those types of chords. Okay, and the capo is going to make that a lot easier in different keys. And I'll show you that, what I mean, in a second. Once you're playing, let's say for instance that someone puts a chart in front of you, it's in the key of A, and you see the chords A, D, and E, which is the 1, 4, and the 5 of the A key. You could play it like this, first position A, right? There's nothing wrong with that. That's totally fine. I find, however, that if I take the capo, I throw it on the 2nd fret, and when you are using a capo, one thing to note, it helps to capo nearest the fret. For instance, if you're capoing the 2nd fret, you want to capo as close to the fret toward your rhythm hand as you can. So I'm almost right on top of the fret, and what that does is it cuts down on intonation or pull on your string. Because if you think about the two, if you're looking level across your fretboard, here's your fret wires. If you put something in the middle of it, the pull between here and here is going to be more than if you put it right here, if that makes sense. So that's just a little note. It won't pull your guitar as far out of tune as perhaps it would if you didn't do that. So let's say, getting back to it, you're in the key of A, and you don't want to play those first position A, D, and E major chords. You're going to capo the 2nd fret, and instead use the G shape. Because all of a sudden, if you play a G relatively to this new nut that we've just put in, you're going to be playing an A major chord, because all of a sudden, this shape, the root is an A, right? Instead of a G down here. Okay? So instead, now, you have a G for your A. For your D chord, instead of playing that first position D, you can play a C major here, or a C9, depending on which one you like. If you're a Chris Tomlin acoustic player, I would recommend just moving that down to a C9, so you get this. And then instead of that E major chord down here, you're going to be playing a D-shaped chord for your E. Okay? So now you get this sound. Right? I find that's a little bit fuller. It sounds a little more friendly. It doesn't sound as... I don't want to use the word amateur, because those are not amateur chords per se, but it sounds a little more polished to me, to my ears. And I don't know about you, but playing A major, D, and E minor, or E major, are fine and dandy, but playing these chords are super easy. So when you get used to how that works and your mind transition to what chords you're actually playing, then I think you'll find that's a lot easier, and you might get a better sound out of your guitar as far as in the mix of the band. Because sometimes this can be a little low and muddy sounding. So this brings it just a little bit, but keeps you in your area. Because remember, the electric guitar and some of the high-end drum cymbals and whatnot are going to be up in the high range. The bass, kick drum are going to be down in the low range. And the piano and acoustic guitar are going to be right in the middle. That's in this general grand scheme spectrum of things in the music, if you can think about it in those three realms. As long as you're in a clean sounding chord, you're going to stick out right in that area and be perfect and be easy to mix. You're going to fit right in with the electric guitar up here and the low end stuff going on down here. So keep that in mind when you're playing, because sometimes and that goes for capo as well, and that's why I said you're not really going past 7th fret, because it starts sounding a little goofy. It can sound almost like a mandolin, unless you want that sound. But sometimes you're up in that upper register, which may start mixing with the electric guitar. For instance, if I capo up here on, oh, I don't know, let's say 7. We're way up here, right? And you play G, C, and D. You'd be playing a D, a G, and an A. Okay? And as you can hear, that's really high sounding. Unless you're going for that specific kind of mandolin sound where it's real high and jangly like that, you'd probably be better served to take your capo off and just play first position chords. Or if you're really adventurous, you could capo 2 and play everything in like a C position, that would be a C, and then like an F, right, and then a G. So you have options, but like I'm saying, don't go too high up with the capo. It's going to just end up sounding kind of goofy and thin and not really work that well. So I would say if you find yourself wanting to capo to play in G and you're up on your 4th fret or even 5th fret, that's about as high as you're going to want to go without it starting to sound kind of jangly. For instance, if you're capoed on the 5th fret, you've got C, right, F, and G. And that's about as high as you're going to want to go. Next thing to talk about, flavor chords. We're going to use, just for fun, we're going to go in A. Or at least I'm going to capo 2nd fret and play in the key of A using G position chords. A lot of times on acoustic guitar you find yourself playing either alone or accompanying someone who's praying, or one of those things where you're playing underneath things and you just are trying to keep something maybe with a keyboard or a pad or something. If you find yourself doing that, a lot of times, and even just normally when playing, there's times when you just don't, the vanilla chords, as we can call them, like G major, C major, or if you're like me, C9, and D major, sound fine, but they're a little plain. So what we do is we end up adding things, and the one thing I love to add to almost every chord is the 2nd, or the 2 in the chord. So if you're playing, for instance, an A, and your 3rd is going to be the C sharp, right? What I do is I end up kind of cutting that out because I'm going to be using my 1st finger instead of playing that C sharp right there. Some people don't do that, but I do. I'm going to use my middle finger to kind of dampen the A string, so you get this sound. So it's just the root plus the rest of them minus the A string. And then I end up bringing my index finger down and I play a B, which, so if you think of the 2nd and the A major, it's A, B, and B. So you want to add that. I end up adding that on the G string, on the 4th fret in this case, or if you're in relative to the capo, the 2nd fret. And you get this chord. That still totally works over any A major chord, but what you end up doing is being able to hammer on and pull off, so you can do this kind of thing. Or if you're just doing an arpeggio. That's me hammering onto the 3rd, to the C sharp. So that works really well. If you're playing a C9 chord, which is already a 2nd chord, you can still use that same B that you just used on the G string. It's kind of a temporary thing, you don't want to hang out there too long. But or you can hammer on your 3rd, which is an F sharp right here. You can go. So in the C9 shape, you're playing an actual D chord there. That's a D. And the 3rd of that is, of course, an F sharp. So I'll do. Okay. And then when you're on the D shape, or in this case, what would be an E, an actual E, but you're playing D shape with the capo on. This one you can walk on the high E string. You can walk your middle finger and pinky up and down. So you start with like the Chris Tomlin D, right, where you're doing a D sus. So you're going, and you walk that down to the major F sharp, and then you want to pull up on that and just lift your middle finger and get the 2nd. So here's the 2nd is the E. Or excuse me, the F sharp, because it's an E. So you get this kind of thing. So you can play that real gently. So there's some flavor you can add there. I recommend you play around with other first position chords and find the second. So for instance, in an A major chord, you would normally play, a lot of guys bar it. In this case, it's a B major chord because we're capoed, right? So that's a B. But I'll talk about it as if it's... What you could do is you just put your two fingers down like this. You let your B string ring open, and you get this flavor. Okay. A lot of times that works really well over an A-shaped chord, or in this case a B. So if you saw a B, you could play this chord. It would be a B2 chord, because you're adding the C note, which is of course the capo open. So I know that's confusing. Work with your capo, use it, get used to what that feels like. Also get used to talking about the real chords, not the capoed shape you're playing. Because if you start talking to a bass player and you're capoed on 2nd fret and you start going, hey, you play a G here. No, he's not playing a G. He's going to be playing an A. Because remember, you're capoed, and this note and chord is an A major chord. Just because you're playing the shape of a G does not make that a G chord. It makes it an A chord because of the capo. Okay? So learn how to speak about chords and what chords are what. And this is going to teach you your neck a lot better, I think, than some of us know already. So you would know, too, if you fretted a C major chord, that you're not going, hey, play a C major here. You're saying, play a D here, because I have a capo on. So this will really help you when you're talking to keyboard players, bass players, anyone else who's playing an instrument that's tuned relatively similar to you. You can give them the actual chord names instead of the shapes you're playing, and it will help a lot in communication. So there's some flavors you can use. Please throw those around, find other ones you can use. A lot of really cool flavor chords that are interchangeable with the vanilla version of the chord, okay? So I recommend, so I don't take too much time up, play around. Find the ones, and if you want to ask specific questions, ask in the comments down below, and I'll be happy to elaborate on anything I just played. But there's lots of great color chords you can use on acoustic guitar and really add something, okay? Last thing I want to talk about is rhythm. There's not too many things you're going to be doing that is complicated rhythmically, okay? Most stuff is straight ahead 4/4, maybe 6/8 time signatures, 3/4 in some cases, maybe some hymns or things like that. You're going to be playing real basic stuff, so don't get too complicated. But the couple things I wanted to touch on is how to play rhythm, because maybe some of us that are watching this video aren't super veterans of the instrument. So I want to cover that. I'm going to stay in the key of G now, for example. We have no capo on. So there's one basic rhythm that's going to, if you learn this one rhythm in every 4/4 song ever, you're good. That rhythm right there is going to cover like 99% of the songs you play. Real slow, it sounds like this. You'll notice that with my rhythm hand, I never stop moving it. I teach my students this when I'm teaching them. Don't do this. That does two things. It's very jerky, and you have the potential of not playing correct time with your drummer or whoever, or if you're by yourself, really messing up and playing all over the place, and your time won't be consistent when you're playing. And two, it's actually harder to play that way. So what I recommend doing is, on acoustic guitar, it's real simple. You've got a pivot point right here on your elbow. Never stop moving your arm. So for instance, if I just muffle my strings and I play that rhythm, my arm is always going in time. So watch, it's like a metronome. It's going. I'm subdividing, right? So if the tempo is click, 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 okay? And I'm choosing when to hit the string by just moving my pick a little bit, depending on which way I'm going, right? Practice that. Most guys probably do that intuitively or just subconsciously, so I doubt most of you have to work on that. But just a tip for guys out there, you're just starting on acoustic. That's one rhythm. The second rhythm I want to teach you is all downstrokes. This one's real popular in the medium to low tempo songs, and it'll be something like this. that all downstrokes rhythm is very good because it leaves a lot of room for your band to do some things. So if you are playing with other musicians, that's a really good rhythm to use when all your job is what I just did. Hold down a rhythm so that the electric guitar can make all his pretty things happen up top, so the keyboard player can fill in with a pad, and the bass player can play really simple whole notes over that. That works really good for the medium to slow tempo songs, okay? That's generally it. There's variations on those for different time signatures and things, but you get the idea. And I don't think most of you probably have a problem with rhythm, but hey, there's something to use as a tool, right? So there you have it. That's the acoustic guitar in a nutshell. Again, I'm not giving you every possible variation of anything you can do on an acoustic guitar. By no means am I trying to do that. I'm simply trying to do what we did in the previous video for electric guitar players is someone hands you a couple pieces of music and says, go play with that band over there. What tools do you have at your disposal to be able to do that? And I'm hoping that you have some things now to go and do that, feel confident, practice them, understand how those tools work. For instance, the capo, you're going to be everyone's hero if you understand how to use a capo properly, because you can play any song in any key just by looking at music and transposing it in your head, which takes time. So if you're not used to doing that, get a pencil out, write in the corresponding chord shapes over them. For instance, if you're in the key of A, grab your piece of paper and a pencil if you have a few minutes before the service and they've just thrown you in it. Say, well, I know that if I capo on the 2nd fret, and if the first chord is supposed to be an A, then I'm going to play a G shape, which is going to be an A. And then if the next chord is a D, I know that if I'm capo on the 2nd fret, my shape is going to be a C, or a C9. And if the third chord, which is the 5 chord, is usually anyway, is going to be an E, if I'm capoed 2nd, that's a D for me. So get to learn how that works, how the interaction between a capo and your guitar works, how to transpose music, because I think for an acoustic guitar player, it's a good thing to know how to do. So I hope that helps. Please comment below if I missed something, if I'm wrong on something, if you have something to add, please do that. I ask that you would just please share this with your friends who lead worship, use it for your team. I want to bless everybody by this and get the word out there that something is out there for people. You're not just wandering alone. We're all brothers and sisters in this, and we're doing this for the Lord, right? So share it. Please subscribe to the channel. That really encourages me and blesses me that I'm not just speaking to an audience of 0. And you guys have been awesome on the other video in commenting and saying that you've been blessed by it. So that really blesses me in return. So please comment, subscribe, share this widely, and we'll chat. And I'll see you in future videos, okay? So I'm Chris with Academy of Worship. See you later.